let's switch back and let's bring up one of our users who's had experience with Writing Assistant. Hello. Thank you so much for being here, Jen. Great to have you with us today. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your firm?
Sure. I'm with Dolinko and Schwartz. We're a boutique employment law firm here in the city, but we represent employees around California. Sometimes we handle some pretty complex matters, whistleblower claims, retaliation, discrimination, and harassment. Occasionally, we do also represent employers. I've been with the firm for several years and as an analyst, and I'm also the Everlaw administrator.
And you are an active participant in the beta, so thank you so much. Really critical to help us make the right decisions. So I know you're a smaller firm. You're going to be creative as a result, and I know you were early users of ChatGPT for some public documents, and then you also switched to Story Builder with Everlaw AI. Can you tell us a little bit more about that experience?
Yes, we definitely have to get creative. So one example was about a year ago, we had a case that had been on pause for quite some time, over a year. And my attorneys needed to get back up to speed pretty quickly. At that moment in time, the amount of cited case law was something like 150 odd different cases. And they asked me to create a study guide of sorts just to review those cases and then kind of try to focus on which ones were the ones that best bolstered our arguments and then which ones to be on the lookout for from the other side. So one by one, I had them in Word, each case in a Word document, and I started uploading it to ChatGPT. I was really nervous about hallucinations, and I was asking it for a summary. This was all going on shortly after last year's summit, and I had seen a Story Builder demo using the Writing Assistant, and so I thought, okay, I'm going to see what Everlaw can do. So I was able to create 2 drafts, one for our side, one for theirs, and upload all of the relevant cases, all in a batch effort, which I appreciated. And then the Writing Assistant at that time was a little open-ended, so I really didn't know what to say. And I just, out of curiosity, was like, okay, which are the 3 strongest cases for our side? And it started spitting out some output. I flipped over to the opposing counsel draft and did the same. And then I was able to actually share some really relevant information with the attorneys.
So that's a very creative use of Writing Assistant. That's great. You also used it in another way that would have been a very tedious process, another matter. Could you tell us about that?
Yes, so recently we got served with 10 sets of RFPs and special interrogatories, and some of the RFPs had over 50 individual items. All told, it was amounting to 120 pages of just requests and about 500 items, all at once. And so I thought, okay, Everlaw has got to help me here. So I uploaded all of those requests, and I just asked for a high-level summary. Again, in the Writing Assistant, I said, summarize each one. I need to be able to pass this over to my attorneys so they can focus on the high-level stuff and not get bogged down in all the details. We could have totally given this to a junior attorney, or I might have gotten stuck with the task. But it would have taken a day or 2, and as a small firm, we have to be really, really careful about tying up our time like that. But we still have to be able to respond to sometimes big requests. So that's where the generative AI, and especially within Everlaw, can really help us out.
So you mentioned it would have taken a junior attorney maybe a day. How long did it take with the AI assistant?
It was spitting out stuff within a couple of minutes, and then the output was 2 pages as opposed to the 120. And so yeah, that was a significant cost and time savings.
Well, that's incredibly valuable, I think. It seems like you're thinking about your firm with a growth mindset, right? How do you use use technology to improve productivity? We think that's great. Obviously, we love to support that. So, in closing, what advice would you give to others that are just getting started with the Writing Assistant?
So, in my personal observation of the legal industry, and I'm not a lawyer, but there does seem to be an awful lot of tedium that's involved, a lot of monotonous tasking. And while that sort of thing is often necessary, it's not necessarily impactful. So my advice is when a really monotonous task comes up, that's when generative AI should come to mind, or Everlaw AI should come to mind. You can get creative in the writing assistant. You can literally just throw it out there and see what it comes back with. At that moment, Everlaw hasn't charged you anything. You haven't spent any credits or any dollars associated. You get a preview of the output, and if you like it, great. Then the credits are used. If you don't, you can try again and again and again until you get something useful. We all know that a blank screen is a much more difficult starting place versus a strong first draft. So get that strong first draft and go from there.
Thank you so much, Jen. Appreciate your time.